Welcome to Missional Channel and another video to the Bible study Discovering Your Purpose in God's Plan. In today's video, Pastor Tim Van Aarde sits down with Tim Sopolinski about his life growing up in a Christian family to becoming a drug addict and alcoholic husband and father, through to rehabilitation and finding peace and love again through Jesus.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning to share a bit about your past and what God's done in your life. Would you mind to share the journey God's taken you on?
From a young age, I'll start off, I grew up in a Christian family. Went to youth groups and that when I was younger on Friday nights. My parents, did everything they could as Christian parents to bring me up in the right way. It wasn't until I started my apprenticeship where I sort of drifted away from that lifestyle. In Australia, it's very accepted to drink and go to the pub and do all that sort of stuff. As a mechanic, that's the apprenticeship that I started when I was 16. And I just fell into the world after moving out of home and left all my Christian values and lifestyle behind with it.
And when you fell into the world, how did you fall into the world?
See, I never really got it all. Like, I just thought it was something we did on Sundays and that. Didn't never feel it in the heart when I was growing up. I didn't get it until everything came crashing down for me, until I really needed God, and then that's where I found God. But it was a long journey until then. So I was in Port Hedland. I went to Port Hedland with my parents, started an apprenticeship at 16. Did that for about 4 years, and then had to move back to college so I could finish it. Wasn't till then that I was introduced to drugs and that. I was smoking pot in Port Hedland, but when I got back down south, I caught up with old friends I grew up with, and they were all into smoking meth and a bit of the worst of stuff. Did that for years after that. Went through a serious relationship, a breakup, and that made me even worse because I didn't even think of turning to God back then. It was just, I thought I had to deal with it, and it just broke me.
And what happened that brought about the change in your life?
So I got married. I went on the straight and narrow for a little bit. I met my wife, Sarah, who I'm still married to now. And I remember her telling me that she wanted to be married to a Christian man. She didn't want to marry someone that didn't believe. And I sort of started getting back into it because I thought it was the right thing to do, but I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do it. I was doing it because other people wanted it for me, but I thought I was doing the right thing but I wasn't doing it for me. And I know now that all the things I was taught growing up, they make sense to me now. Feeling it with your heart, feeling God with your heart, not just your mind. You got to do it because you want to do it, not because other people want you to do it. And if you don't want to do it, truly want to do it, then follow God. It's never going to work really. It's just going to be touching the surface sort of thing. You're never going to get right into it.
And that's wonderful, Tim. That's such an important thing you're sharing. But you reached rock bottom. What happened how did you get to rock bottom, and what happened then?
So me and my wife went to a tough love seminar that Peter Lynn James was doing about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was still a drinker then, but I wasn't doing any heavy drugs. But my wife has always wanted me to give up alcohol because it's not really a good lifestyle at all. But I thought there was nothing wrong with it. So that's why I kept doing it. And it was always a problem between me and my wife, my drinking. But so when I first married her, we were going to church a little bit. We were going on Sundays. And I still was 1 foot in the church, 1 foot out. I still, away from church, I was in the world. I was a totally different person than I was in the church. So I went to church, and I remember looking at the clock. I was counting down for the service to be over. I was never really listening to the message. I was just doing it because I thought it was the right thing to do, take my kids to church and all that stuff. And but it got to the point where I'd stopped going to church. My wife had stopped going to church. I wanted to give up drinking. Got to the point where it was affecting my health, affecting my family, my marriage, but I couldn't do it. I just kept trying, and then I kept failing, and it was like I had two personalities. But back then I didn't know what was going on in my head. That's just what I thought it was. And one week I would try, and next week I would just fall back into it. And it got to the point where I just stopped trying, and I just went full into it. And that's when it started to spiral out of control. I was drinking copious amounts of alcohol. I started getting back into the meth because me and my wife weren't going good, so I was getting pushed away in a sense, but I was pushing myself away from my family. I gave up on giving up pretty much.
Wow.
And that's when it spiraled out of control, and I became worse than I'd ever been my whole life. Became really bitter, aggressive. Didn't have too many friends, not many people who wanted to be around me.
And I remember your wife loved you so much, she never gave up on you during all this time. And
No.
she came up with, she asked you to get involved in Shalom House, or that you will go there. Can you share more about that?
So ever since we went to the seminar, she would throw it out there, but started off as maybe 1 year she threw it out there, once in a year, and then it got down to like once a month she'd throw it out there, But she wouldn't do it when we were fighting or anything, when we were good and on good terms, and she was just keeping the peace. We'd both be sort of doing it, and she'd throw it out there, and I'd be like, nah, no way, I'm still working. Because I was a functioning drug addict, alcoholic, I would still be going to work. But as it got worse, it poured into my work life as well, and that's when I started missing work and all that as well, and that's even more to the story. But she just wanted me to go there. She kept praying about it. She's been praying about it ever since that seminar, and then one day I made an agreement, and that was with you, that if I couldn't sort myself out in the next 3 months, that I would go there, and you kept me to that. And
your wife did as well.
Yep.
And so you did go there, and can you tell us more about how that changed your life going to Shalom House?
I think it was because there was the week before I went there, I remember driving around, and in my head was just going over, just drop your pride, let go of your pride. Because I was driving around, me and Sarah had split up, like that was it. Didn't want to go home, didn't want to go to any of my friends' house. Like I could have went and got on the drugs and got pissed again, but I just didn't want to go anywhere. I just felt I didn't feel at home anywhere. And that voice going, let go of your pride, and I believe now that it was God. And I did. And then yous came around, my parents came around to my house, Sarah was there, and it was sort of like an intervention sort of thing. But because they always say in Shalom, you won't get far if you're doing it for someone else. And I really believe, at first I thought, I was pushed here in a way, but it wasn't, because I did agree in the end to go myself. Because, no one forced me to come. It was my choice, and because it was my choice, I give it my all once I got there. But because I'd let go of my pride, I left it all back in Collie, And when I went there, I was just fully submitted to the program. I knew what it was about because I'd been to the seminar, I sort of knew what I was getting into. In a way, I thought I made it out to be, it was going to be heaps harder, but I think because I left my pride behind, it's what made it so easy.
Wow.
And I was open to God as well.
And that's wonderful. So that you went into the right attitude, you were open to God, so He prepared you. And when you were inside Shalom, what happened there?
Well, the first night I went was on a men's shed night, and I just pretty much prayed the whole night. I heard some pretty serious testimonies, and the bloke saying the testimony was not the person the bloke in the testimony was not the person I was looking at right now, and I just thought, far out, if he can do it, like he's had a heaps rougher life than I've had, and that just gave me hope. Yeah.
So if God could do it with him, He can do it with me, kind of thing.
Yeah, that was sort of what it was like. But I just felt God everywhere. That Shalom's just full of it, you know. It's just so powerful. Like we go to church 3 times a week, and it was funny because I used to not despise going to church, but I used to I told you I'd look at the clock constantly during a service, wondering when it's going to end so I could go do something. But now I look forward to going to church. It's like, wow. It's my new addiction sort of thing.
That's a good addiction.
Yeah.
And you know what's amazing is your whole family's life's been changed. Your wife and kids and everything.
Yeah, Sarah's, we were both depressed, heavily depressed. She used to look into my eyes and reckon she just saw darkness. She saw nothing, no life. And I remember the first family night she come. So every Saturday is a family night. Family can visit once it's been okayed through Shalom, because they're very strict about who they let visit people. I just remember seeing the kids, and I started bawling my eyes out. Wow. Before I even got to touch them. And then I embraced Sarah and gave her a hug, and I just started wailing like all the crap that was holding me down, like the chains just let go of me in that moment. And I knew that it was all over, like not consciously, but I just felt like something lifted off me.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just like almost spewed out of me.
And I've seen the changes in your kids. That's your relationship being restored. That's changed your whole family. God's really good. And I want to ask you some questions that can help others. Submitting to one another shows that we respect the Lord. In what ways did you not submit to one another before you went to Shalom and you were saved?
Almost in every way, really. Just always butting heads. I could never do what was right. Yeah. I was constantly lying, only because I was trying. Not only because. Just lied. I started off lying about drugs and that, but then it just began to lie about everything, and just lies like I've learnt now that one lie is poisonous enough to just poison you. Yeah. You start lying. Yeah. Yeah.
After you were set free, I think your life, you said, you became different, you became thankful, you wanted to go to church. How did that change your relationship with your wife?
Complete 180. Yeah. I was on the bus one day and I was just sitting there and I started feeling like longing for my wife.
Wow.
Whereas before there was nothing there. There was nothing, and if I didn't sort it out, it would have ended up ending and been all over. Like we love each other now. I can't wait to be in her presence. Yeah, it's like we were. What did I say? It's like we're teenagers, and just first love sort of thing.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, God can give you that to restore your relationship, and He did. It's amazing. And how do you think the way you love your wife can reveal that Jesus Christ has washed and cleansed us and is busy sanctifying us? How can that love for your wife reveal something of Jesus?
For His love for us. What came to mind just then was like, years ago I remember a Christian telling me that you need to love God above your wife, and I could never get that. Like that really, if anything, it might have pushed me away a little bit, but it's because I didn't understand it. But now I do, and I'm putting God first, and there's so much happening. Like, so much has happened already, but there's just so much more that can and is happening. It's just, yeah, I could go on for a long time, but
if you get that right, you put God first, then that changes your relationship with your wife. And I think that's what he says in Ephesians.
because God will show us how to love. Like, He will love us as long as we're loving Him, and that love will just pour over my wife. I will love her more than I can ever love her with it. Yeah.
With God's love.
Yeah.
So your marriage now seems like it's got purpose.
Yeah.
What do you think what is the purpose you have in your marriage?
My purpose now is just to be a better husband, I pray nearly every day that I'll be better tomorrow, or better today than I was yesterday, better husband, better father. Yeah, and that's an everyday thing for me now. And I haven't forgotten to pray one morning, but if I do, or when, like, I need to pray. Like, it's like an everyday thing for me now. Yeah. Putting my family first and my wife first, after God, before anyone else too. Like, yeah, I just sometimes I come across a bit maybe shy or rude to other people that come into Shalom sometimes, but it's because I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to change myself and put my wife and my kids first. I mean, I'll help anyone that needs help, and I'll speak life into them, but I won't put my progress for me and my family above. I won't put anyone else's above my family ever again. And I've done that in the past. I've put relationships outside of my family relationship first, and it's just not the way it should have been done.
God has really done incredible work in your life. And I want to ask you one last question. In what ways has it set you free to know Jesus has removed every spot and wrinkle from your life? How has this changed your marriage?
It's just allowed us both to forgive each other. Yeah. Sarah, I reckon she forgave me because we do reconciliation, and Sarah was obviously my first one, and she brought all of her feelings that she'd gone through over the time to the reconciliation. But once we left there, it was like I could really feel she's forgiven me and she's going to give me a chance to change. Yeah. Took me longer to forgive myself than it took my wife to forgive me.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've got an incredible wife, and it's just incredible to see what God's done with your family. And I think when I listen to your testimony, it can give hope to anyone who's out there, whose families are broken, their marriages are broken, and they have some problem on addiction. There is hope out there. Is there anything else you would like to say?
Shalom works. Yeah. You have to give it everything, but I think some people come, because people come and go from there a lot. You have to want to change, and you have to know that it's going to take hard work. I remember your wife said to me, and this is one thing that stuck with me, that it's probably be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And it has been, yeah. And it still is. I mean, I believe I'm past some of the hardest stuff, but I learned to turn to God, and that's what's got me through.
Wow.
Like, even if Shalom wasn't a Christian-based rehab, and you don't even have to be a Christian to go there. You don't even have to become a Christian. They'll still help you. But I could not have done it without God. Like,
Amen.
It's the perfect training ground to train me to, when it's hard, turn to God and not turn to my own self.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for taking the time to come share with us today, and may God bless you on your journey and with your family. Thank you.
Thanks.